you, what'd you think about the reaction last night? Was it a little bit more than you anticipated, or was it about what you thought? The fan reaction, everybody, people going to Doco. Myself, I went down to Doco, me and Reese.
Took the trip. I saw that. It was about what I expected. I think so. Last night was like weird for me. When Katie just went full.
Yeah, Katie couldn't handle it the entire, like when let's go to Mark and Katie.
Katie was already crying. I was like, what'd Mark do? Like, what happened to her? Why is she like, she had like full on like Kerry Washington tears. Like, what is going on? And it was then I started to have this, like, why am I not crying? Like, how come I don't feel this? And I remember, the game got out of control pretty quickly in the third quarter. And so when it was, because I was getting superstitious at this point, which I'm not superstitious. I'm a little stitious, but not superstitious.
I know that one.
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't seen the episode, but I know.
Okay. So it was like I had a ton of work to do for us when the game was final. But
nice graphic, by the way.
When it was clear, oh, thank you.
I liked it.
But when it was clear, okay, we've got this. Let's start to prepare everything. I put the reel together for D-Lo and KC. I had the ESPN stuff, and then it just becomes a series of post, switch accounts, retweet, like, dude, it's just a whole series of nonsense. The first person I saw was Kevin Phippen, and he took a picture of, like, he had bottles and champagne glasses. I was like, all right, I got that, sure. Then I started seeing it more and more and more. I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm not going to do that, but like that's cool. And then when they went to the live shot with it was Kyle and Kenny last night, when they went to the live shot to Doco, it was like, okay, I see it.
Yeah,
that's kind of what I expected. And I get Kenny Caraway going live on Instagram. All right, let's tap in. No Kenny Caraway live on Instagram.
It's the connection.
All right,
I tried to go.
So I started like scrolling to see who was where, and it's about what I thought. I felt bad. Like, I had a bigger reaction this morning than I did last night. Still didn't cry. Just like, maybe I'm just broken. I don't know. I didn't cry, but I read Sam Amick's article in The Athletic, and I know we're not supposed to say Sam Amick's name because I don't want to get him in trouble. But I'm a fan of Sam's work, and he wrote a really good article, and he wrote it kind of from a different perspective than I think, because everyone writes about the misery of the Kings. And by the way, it was very refreshing to go to theathletic.com this morning and see multiple articles about the Sacramento Kings that weren't related to nonsense. Hunter had one. Anthony Slater had one. Sam Amick had his, and Sam was written from the viewpoint of, because most people know Sam covered this team from 2005 to 2010 as the beat writer for the Sacramento Kings, for the Sacramento Bee. And so he was right there at the start of the decline. And he wrote it from the perspective of, here's what I experienced with the Sacramento. Here's what I experienced during that time. And he talked about his dad dying, and this, where he found out, because he was at a game, and where he found out. He talked about his kids. One's 16 years old. One's 13. Neither of them have ever seen the playoffs. And that made me think about my life in the last 16 years and what I've been through in the last 16 years, and how much I remember being at the playoff game and who I was with when Kevin Martin hit that shot. And I remember I started to think about every just crazy journey that I've been on since that last playoff game, being at that game at Arco Arena with Kara, and, winding up in Knoxville, Tennessee to find out that the Monarchs folded, then winding up in Groton, Connecticut, where we stayed because it was close to the casino where the Connecticut Sun played, and it was 90 minutes from Bristol, and then coming back and getting a shot at 11:40, and then it not really working out, and then winding up in a town called Glastonbury, Connecticut. All of these things happened. Kings still ain't made the playoffs. Coming back because the team had sold to Vivek Ranadive, and there was a big rally at Cesar Chavez Park, and I wanted to be here for that. And And I was here for that and being told, hey, come back to 1140. I think we've got something for you. I think we could do something. And just everything that has happened during the 16 years, because that's what Sam wrote about. So it made me think about my journey, and it hit me a little bit different. Like, God, I almost got hit with this is ridiculous. Like, nobody should be doing this.
Yeah.
Nobody should have given birth to a child who can now drive, who has never seen their dad cover a playoff team. That's insane.
Yeah.
And it admittedly, it speaks to, I told Jill Adge this morning, like, it never felt like this was going to happen. And I think that's what all of this boils down to. I think that's what all of the emotion comes from fans or people who covered the team. We've said this before. This is fun.
Yeah.
Opening a bottle of champagne, opening 3 bottles of champagne after the Sacramento Kings push it, that's fun.
Yeah.
What we've been doing, while we might have fun, it's not nearly, it's covering that basketball team when a dude throws up at center court isn't fun.
Yeah.
Covering the basketball team that every national media person is trashing. Most fans at this point are trashing. A large percentage of local media at this point is trashing. It's exhausting, right? It's exhausting. So to have this experience where it's fun is amazing. And it's, again, it's just something that you weren't sure was going to happen.
Right.
And I think that's what all of that rush that everybody felt last night was. It didn't feel like it was going to happen.
It's a trip. I remember we would talk all the time, and when this show first started, and I'd be like, everybody, it's not going to happen. Vivek's got to sell. I was like, look, it's going to happen. I went through this a little bit with the 49ers when after they got rid of Harbaugh, and it just was the depths, and Jed York needs to sell. We're never going to, we wasted it. I was like, bro, they're going to get good again. Levi's is terrible. They're going to get good. You're going to go to Levi's. You're going to watch 49. Like, it's going to happen. I can't tell you when, but it's going to happen. I remember that experience. And I would say the same thing about the Niners. I'm like, bro, it's going to happen. Like, they're going to make the playoffs. Once again, can't tell you when, but it's going to happen. I didn't know when it was going to happen. Like, and it almost felt like where they were at coming into this season, it was the last opportunity for a while, right? Like, if this didn't work, we talked about it. This didn't work. Monty probably be gone. Fox would probably be gone. It'd be wholesale changes. And you're probably like blowing it up to rebuild, which we went all over again, or build or tank, whatever.
Yeah.
We went over it last year. That's not rebuild and be back in 2 years.
Yeah.
Hopefully you're back in 5. And 16 and 17, now it's turned to 22. It's like, that's why the big thing I would always say, sometime in that offseason, you have to, it can't be 17. Like, it can't be. I don't care. I really don't care if it ends and then you start a new streak. If that happens, that happens. But it can't be 17 in a row.
Timberwolves.
Yeah.
Literally with the well, it wasn't a streak, but they missed the playoffs.
Yeah.
I think
they were like,
was it 2 more years?
12.
No, they were made it, but then missed it again. I think for 2 or 3
and
more
last
years.
year was the first year they made it back, so it was like 3 years.
Jimmy Butler.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was 12. I think it was, they were, well, yeah, okay. Yeah, it was, because it was where the Kings were. I think they were a year ahead of the Kings. I think.
It
was
right.
really,
that
really close.
Right. Yeah.
Can I hit this real quick?
Yeah, for sure.
Stockton Kings general manager Paul Johnson has been named the 2022-2023 NBA G League Executive of the Year.
Nice.
As selected by NBA G League team basketball executives. Congratulations to the Stockton Kings general manager, Paul Johnson. We'll see if that's the first executive of the year that lands in Sacramento.
Let me see. I also got breaking news. Paul Johnson, he just edged out at Nani, who was second in the voting.
No, very good. They split the vote, but they all went to Stockton.
I'm telling you, Nani didn't win it.
Hey,
you guys
tell your jokes.
tell your joke.
Everything changed when
Everything
Nani was
changed
there.
that day. Everything. We have not looked back.
Kings moved
since
up
that
in the
day.
lottery. So
Once
much
again,
happened.
if I'm a cynic, boy, they knew what the draft position was. They got that out there. It's like, let's put this out here real quick.
Unrelated to the Kings, but tough news for the Knicks. Julius Randle will miss at least 2 weeks with a left ankle sprain.
That was a tough one.
Yeah, it looked bad.
Yeah,
that's from Adrian Wojnarowski. Real quick, you're listening to D'Lo and KC on KIFM West Sacramento, 98.5 FM, KRXQ HD2 Sacramento, ESPN 1320. Always live on the free Odyssey app, live on Twitch and YouTube as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say last night, having those thoughts though that you had. The only thing I really thought about was my grandmother. She was a big Kings fan, and when the Kings were in their heyday, like the place to be, as you could probably imagine, with Cheryl and El Grove, the place to be was watching these playoff games at home with my grandmother, my aunt Cindy and Wanda, and my mom. They were nuts.
I bet it was.
They were crazy, and they tailed off. No surprise, Cheryl and El Grove. When the Kings got bad, she left the Kings.
Oh, stunner. Bandwagon Cheryl.
And all of a sudden, she
took Reese with her.
Yeah, man. She gets Reese the Steph Curry stuff. Auntie Cindy loves the Warriors. My grandmother liked the Warriors, but she still loved the Kings. And she's not the I'm gonna go to the game type or whatever. She'd sit right there in her little recliner, watch it every game at 7:00. And I think about her. She passed away a year and a half ago. And she wanted to see them in the playoffs so bad. And I know she's watching now, but that's who I would call. Like, something happened, people talk about they call their homeboys or whatever the case. None of my homeboys are Kings fans. I'd call my grandmother. I'd be like, if it's something bad, can you believe what that just happened? That's crazy. Talk to you later. Something good. Did you see that shot? Oh, that's crazy. And man, yeah, we would have been on the phone like crazy last night, man. So, or this whole season would have been something great. So I think about her. I think about people who are in the same situation, who have lost loved ones that, they've gone through the streak with.
Yeah.
And, they're all enjoying it right now. They're having some black bottles where they're at right now.
Yeah.
Because the Kings finally made the playoffs.
Yeah, man. That's fun. Because the only person I ever really watched sports with was my grandpa. He liked the Kings, but he really loved the 49ers. And that's the reason I became a Cowboy fan, was because he hated it. And I found it funny. Like, I just found it like the Cowboys got good when I was like 11, 12, somewhere around there. So it was right at that peak I can really get under his skin time in my life. And that's the only reason I did it, even though I really did like the 49ers. I actually really liked the Raiders because I loved Bo Jackson. I never cared for the Raiders as much. I just really, really liked Bo Jackson. But I liked the 49ers because I knew how much he loved them. And then I got older and was like, it would be fun to get under his skin. And I was never going to turn against Mike Tyson. So I was like, I'm just going to turn heel on the San Francisco 49ers and go with the Cowboys because he hates them. He wasn't into basketball the same way, but he was. Like, he liked it, but he didn't love it like he loved his 49ers. So I didn't have those. I think that's where people draw so many emotions from, is the 16 years. Your grandma, the people, Sam's dad, like those types of things are what they pull from. I didn't really have that over the last 16 years. I've been in and out of California, over, like 10 of those 16 years or so. I watched, we haven't even talked about all the relocation stuff. I watched that. I watched virtually all of that from the East Coast from an entirely different perspective. That's where I was. Strangely enough, being in sports media now, I was more connected out there than I am here. And I was watching that from an entirely different set of eyes.
Did you, I don't know if we ever talked about this, but did you, because when you kind of looked at things, I was on the outside looking in. I was like, they probably can't move this team. I was always like, if they find the money, they can't, because they're not going to set that precedent for the rest of the owners. If a city says, I'm going to build you an arena, the owners won't say no to that. regardless if they think they should be here or not. They're not going to set that precedent. That's why it's on the outside. But you would probably talk to people. Did you think they were leaving after?
Yeah.
You thought they were going?
Because I didn't think the money was there. After the what was the Anaheim? The Anaheim one, you know, and rightfully so, David Stern deserves a lot of credit because there were owners who were pushing the move, and David was the one who was like, if this is a money situation and they have the money, we're not taking this team from here.
Right.
But David was also the one who, when the mic was off, was like, they don't have the money. That's what this boils down to. They don't have the money and someone's offering it. How do we turn that down?
Right.
That's like, as a business owner, you can't do that.
Right.
Adam deserves a lot of credit too. Me and Adam are very good friends. Adam Silver deserves a lot of credit too, because he was the one in during the Anaheim stuff who brought up, y'all are going to try to do this during a strike shortened season. You are torpedoing any chance of there's already a risk with this. You're torpedoing the chances of this working, trying to launch it when we have no clue when next season is going to start. And that bought the reprieve. With the reprieve came the Seattle thing. And then that allowed that to play out. But from where we were, it was, they don't have the money. They don't have, this doesn't boil down to anything else. And I don't mean like, this doesn't boil down, and I don't want this to come across, this doesn't boil down to ticket sales.
Yeah.
That's not what this was. It boiled down to hundreds of millions of dollars that this city couldn't come up with until it did.
Right.
And that Adam was true to his word from beginning to end, which is why he is so celebrated the way that he is. They have it, they keep it. If they don't, and I don't think he said this publicly, but he was saying this in New York, they don't have it. We can't keep them there.
And there's two things moving to the Seattle thing that is just good fortune. It's really just good fortune, because if Ann Falk doesn't tweet that out, there's not going to be enough time. Like because the Maloofs and them were working on in the background. They were going to spring this up when the deal was done, and there would have been no time to save it. But Ann Falk, thirsty Ann Falk for whatever reason, and random thirsty Ann Falk, I don't know why, tweets that out, and that's gets the ball wrong. She doesn't tweet that out, that doesn't happen. The other thing about it, and I'm just talking about logistically and relationship wise, if Kevin Johnson's not the mayor, David Stern doesn't give this opportunity. If Mayor Steinberg is the person there, I don't think David Stern gives the opportunity for all that to happen.
So there's probably another footnote that doesn't get discussed enough, and it's partly because of you try to push Kevin Johnson out of this story a little bit. And I don't have any problem with that. But I remember All-Star game, I'm almost positive it was in Orlando. It was after the Monarchs were sold, or after the Monarchs were disbanded, excuse me. Kevin Johnson came up to us at one of the like brunch events at the All-Star game in Orlando. And he sat right down next to us and just started talking. We didn't have time. We had investors who would, unprovoked, just sat down and said, we didn't have time to keep the Monarchs. We had investors that would have done it. They just didn't give us the time. And he said that day, there's something out, there's more to this that we can't figure out, because they unloaded that way too quickly. The Monarchs being ousted the way that they were, and for those who don't, this was less than a 2-week notice. They wanted it done instantly. They wanted out of the league the day they placed that call. The league begged for time to find those owners, to find another group of owners. You couldn't sell off a pro sports franchise in days. It took time, and no one would do it. That's how they ultimately disbanded. But that put the NBA on alert with the Maloofs. They're like, this was one of our success. This is 2010.
One of their original franchises.
Was 2010, and they're looking around like the league then isn't where it's at now. And they're like, wait a minute. We've got 2 leagues. We got 2 franchises that do reasonably well. Connecticut just started, and Sacramento. Why the hell are we losing Sacramento? And that put everyone on alert for what ultimately was coming. And it was obviously the league well before this started doing their due diligence, looking into some financial situations with the Maloofs. And I don't think the league was caught totally off guard by what happened. I think the city was more than the league was. But I think the Monarchs being cut played a huge part in being able to keep the Kings here.
You're 100% correct. I think they were on alert, but I also feel, like I said, this isn't a knock on him. This is just the relationship between the two. If Mayor Sternberg's is the mayor,
no, you're 100% right.
David Stern gives him every
there's no doubt. Like it you can't leave Kevin Johnson out of the story. I've always believed that walk was supposed to be Kevin Johnson walk or Kevin, something along those lines. It can't be.
Or he can get the other block or something.
It never can be.
Yeah.
And it's fine being David J. Stern, but I've always believed that was supposed to be named after him. Don't know that. That's 100% an opinion and